But that was last year. Does that count?
No.
Okay.
What's the princess with the mirror?
Well, no, they think, oh, eggplant's a good vegetable to eat. And
then there's also something called a novelette, which, I don't know. I don't get the specifications.
Which is a pamphlet.
Hi, I'm Genevieve.
And I'm her mom, Diana.
And this is Espresso Shots and Epic Plots.
So grab your favorite hot beverage and join us to talk about books.
So we decided to start our booktube journey with the ever-popular mid-year freakout tag. We thought it would be a good way to go through all the books that we've read, or some of the books that we've read thus far, and kind of let you know about our tastes a little bit. So far this year, I have read about, I think it's 45 books now, which is more than I've done in the past, so that's exciting.
And I've read about 20 books so far this year.
Now, do you read 2 books at a time at all, ever?
Oh, I can. I used to do up to 3. I would have one in my car and one in my desk at the office and one at home by the bed. So now that we have these wonderful mobile devices and I can listen and read anywhere, I have not read 2 books at a time recently. But when I do read more than 1 book at a time, they are vastly different books.
Yeah, I can't do 2 at one time. My brain does not, I get so engrossed in one book that I want to finish that book before I throw another one in the mix, even if they are totally different. If they're totally different, I'll just find I won't want to pick the other book up. I'll just keep going back to the same book.
Yeah.
So I haven't quite mastered that yet. So first question, the best book that you've read so far. So do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. By far, I've read a lot of really good books this year. My best one so far has been Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang, or M.L. Wong. I should probably double check how to say that. And this is the reason this is my favorite. Like I said, I've read a lot of favorites. It has really stuck with me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the plot to hopefully intrigue you, but I don't want to tell you too much because you either know because you've already read it and you know, or you should go and you should read it. So Blood Over Brighthaven is about a magical world where spells are written using typewriters, which is really an homage to programming it's like computer programming. And so the main character, there's actually 2 main characters, but the main female character is Siona Freinen, and she is a woman in this industry, it's a very patriarchal society. So it is a big deal that she has made her way up in the ranks, and she gets this position that a woman has never had. So there's kind of a lot on her shoulders. She experiences a lot of sexism with the men in her industry, and she ends up being forced to work with what is essentially the janitor. His name is Tamil, and that's just one layer of prejudice. But the 2 of them then begin to uncover a lot of secrets within their history, within their society, and the twist at the end was just jaw-dropping. I really want to talk about this book with people that have read it, and nobody that I know has read it. And so except for my husband, I tell my husband all of the things in books because I know he's not going to read them. It's my favorite because it has stuck with me. So even though I think I read it back in March. I read a lot of really good books, but it is the one that just keeps coming back in. It's a standalone, which for fantasy is great, meaning you're not committed to 7 books in the series, but you leave it wanting more, even though, there's no cliffhanger, you're not going to get more. But it just gives you that feeling of I want to be in that world just a little bit longer.
So did it hit your genre sweet spot?
I think so. Yeah, yes.
Which is
I'm in my fantasy era right now for sure. So I've left romantasy and I'm gone full blown
fantasy,
epic fantasy. Okay. I think so. Yeah.
All right. The best book, I've got a couple of books that I've read this year. The first one that immediately came to mind was Kristen Hanna's The Women. And it is a book about Frances, or a woman named Frankie. It starts out in the early 60s during the Vietnam War. And Frances is growing up with a father who just has huge admiration for soldiers and men who have gone off to war. Even though he was never able to, he actually has this wall of honor in his house. So any of the men in the family that had gone off to war, there's a photo and their medals and everything hanging. And Frankie's brother goes off to join the army, I believe. And anyway, he joins the service, and she has just graduated from nursing school and is feeling very frustrated because even though she's graduated at the top of her class and she's very intelligent, she's stuck emptying bedpans and serving food trays in the hospital. And she really wants to make a difference as well. So she goes ahead and signs up to also go off to Vietnam. It's interesting because she is not treated throughout the book in the same way that her brother is treated within her family. And then it's further on out to where no one even believes that there are women involved in the Vietnam War. She does end up working in the Army hospital, and it's a book that I loved, partially because I am of the era that it takes place in. I remember the music, I remember the styles. She describes what the main characters are wearing, and I could really see the way it looked. I think I really liked it also because she turns out to be a very strong woman. She does some unconventional things of the time that I think fit what my genre sweet spot is. I like the history. I'm not really big into war. Yeah, it was a really good, interesting read. And Kristen Hanna, I love all of her books, and every time I meet another book reader, chances are they've read this book. So the other book that I wanted to mention that I don't hear as much about, but I just loved it for multiple reasons. It was a book called Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. And it takes place in the 1930s to 1940s when the whole country was just coming out of the Dust Bowl and in the Depression, and the war's getting ready to go. So there's a lot of poverty in a lot of places. The truth behind the book is the Tennessee Children's Home Society, which was being run by a woman, Georgia Tann, and Georgia was stealing or kidnapping young children with false pretenses that were the perfect blonde-haired, blue-eyed young ones and selling them to people of wealth. The main characters in the book were literally kidnapped off of their shanty boat. And if you weren't sold off, Miss Tan just was really abusive. The one thing I think that really resonated to me about the book was the children. There were 4 in the family of the main characters. They were living on a shanty boat in the bayou, and the way they viewed their life was magical. They, being young, even though their mother was probably 15 or 16 years old, she was also very young and uneducated, but their father did whatever he could to keep them safe and surviving and fed. Unfortunately, when their mother was in the hospital being drugged up to have another baby, the society came in and had her sign papers saying that they would pay for the hospital bill, and what she was really signing was signing away her children. Yeah. But my husband and I lived on a sailboat for about 20 years. And it brought back a lot of the memories of how people on the outside might have seen the way we lived versus the way we felt about it, and how much we loved it. And so I think that's a lot of why it resonated with me.
All right, next up is best sequel you've read so far. So as I kind of mentioned, I'm in fantasy. There's a lot of sequels, but by far the best one I've read. I feel like I'm cheating because I read the first and the second book this year. I don't know why that feels like cheating, but it would be A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. The series is known as The Shadows of the Leviathan. So if you're unfamiliar with this book, then it is essentially a Attack on Titans meets Sherlock Holmes. And you don't know what Attack on Titans is, do you? I only know what Attack on Titans is because of my husband.
Okay.
It's an anime about a village that has giant leviathans that attack the city. And that is what happens in this book. But that is not the main point of the book. That is just something that is happening in the background throughout the whole series, because this is a world of biopunk, which is also something I had never heard of, but was fascinated by as a science-brained person. So in this world, their electricity comes from plants, their infrastructure, their housing, a lot of their technologies are plant-based technologies. That's why it's called biopunk. And the humans in this world are augmented, is what they say. And so the main character, Din, he is considered an engraver, which means that he can go into a place, he can talk to anybody, and that entire scenario is permanently engraved in his head. He can recall it with perfect recollection. And he actually uses scent as a way to engrave it in his brain, which because scent is such a powerful, And so what happens is he is sent to these crime scenes, we'll call them, and then he reports back to Anna, and the two of them solve these cases that nobody else has been able to figure out. They're very high up in the society. And so this was the second one. A lot of people say they liked this one even better because you got to see Din as a person a little bit more. You got to know a little bit more about his character. I honestly enjoyed both of them equally. Even though it is a series, they're separate mysteries, so like everything gets nice and wrapped up at the end of the book. But I do recommend reading them in order because you'll be really confused with like the world and what's going on, and there's references to the first one.
I am not very much into following through with sequels. Occasionally, I will read a book that I really enjoy, and there is another one. So I think I've only read one sequel thus far, and it was Four Aunties and a Wedding by Jessie Q. Satanto. Her first book, Dial A for Auntie, it's an amusing book. It's not a deep read. I enjoyed it. I probably read it after reading The Women because The Women was so heavy and I have to like lighten it up sometimes. Yeah. And so I really enjoyed listening to it. I tend to listen to books more than read them. Of course, the aunties, they're all Asian. It's got some humor to it. Yeah. The aunties don't understand when they're sending texts. They cover them with emojis that are totally inappropriate, but they don't understand.
Or do they?
They're also very strong-willed Asian women, which their own daughter and niece doesn't really understand how they really are tuned in and influencing the kerfuffles that they get in. Is that a good word?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think one of the things that made me enjoy it so much was the narrators for the book did the accents, the Asian accents of the four aunties. Some of them, depending on their ages, speak better, speak different dialects. All of that was played out in the narration, and I really enjoyed that because having traveled on our boat, my ear got tuned to the foreign accents, and it was something that I really enjoyed when we were in places that were not all Americans talking.
Yeah, well, and I remember from the first one, because I've read both of these, that the author even goes to explain why she wrote the characters to talk the way they did, because they are like a hodgepodge of American and these East Asian languages. And
and their ideas about things is really a hodgepodge too. Yeah. So that's why I enjoyed the book. I would probably continue to pick up more books by her about the aunties in between here and there. It's a quick read. And
she has another one that I can't remember the name of right now. I'll put a picture of it here. Okay. It's a murder mystery one, a cozy murder mystery one.
Cozy. It's a cozy book. I never worried that there was going to be a bad ending. Yeah. All the bad guys get taken care of in a nice, neat little way. Yeah. And fun read. Yeah.
All right. New releases you haven't read yet, but want to. So this, but obviously that's not really feasible. So in actuality, new releases that I still want to read, The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. This is a brief synopsis, my understanding, because I haven't read it yet. This is a competition-based, like Hunger Games style competition sort of book, so it's competition book. I don't like knowing a whole lot going into books, so that's what I know. People seem to really like it. Next up, The Knight and the Moth. I got this really nice sprayed edges edition. This is, general idea is she is a seer. She can foresee the future. I know that there is a gargoyle companion in this, which makes it nice and fun. So this is by Rachel Gillig, who also wrote the Shepherd King duology, which I have not read, but is also on my to-read list. And so even though this is a series, it's also only going to be a duology, so limited to 2 books. This book I just got, so I am a subscriber to Owl Crate, which means I get really pretty books. I've just started my pretty bookish journey, as I like to call it. And so I will put the original cover for this book up as well, because this is not what it looks like. But this is The Incandescent by Emily Tesh. I have recently started reading a lot of novellas, and I read 2 novellas by Emily Tesh, and her writing is very like lyrical and beautiful. This just came out June, I believe, of this year. And this is dark academia, so it takes place in a magic school, except unlike a lot of other magic school books, it's not about the students. This is actually about one of the professors. And so I am a teacher in real life, so I'm really curious to hear about just like, it's a serious book. It's not a funny book or anything like that. So it's not going to be like teacher antics of students and things like that, but it's a teacher perspective in like a dark academia setting. So these were the first ones to really like come to my head that I've purchased and committed to reading.
I don't, again, follow new releases necessarily or sequels, as I had mentioned. I am, I guess, what you would call a mood reader. So I finish up a book, and if it was a downer, I tend to go to something that's light and airy. And then once I've had my fill of those, I go to something that's, maybe more intense.
Yeah.
Jen turned me on to the Guncle series of books by Stephen Raleigh. I started out with the first one, the Guncle.
Yeah.
And it was just really cute, really funny. And the phrases just make me giggle, having known people in those similar types of situations. And
Did you cry when you read The Guncle?
I remember laughing out loud.
Yeah, you laugh a lot too, but I think I cried. I think there was a tear
or two.
Yeah, it takes a lot to make me cry when I read
it. It does. That's why I'm surprised. All I can think of are the funny parts and the fun parts.
Yeah.
And then there's The Guncle Abroad, which was the second one that I read, and I enjoyed it just as much as the first one. I think it fleshed out a lot of the characters a little bit more. The nieces and nephew of the Guncle are grown up a little bit more, and their characters are developed a little bit more. So I'm hoping he writes another one or continues the series, because I had fun with it. Yeah,
he's a good author.
I had fun with it. It made me laugh out loud, and just like crying. I think it's hard for a book to really make me laugh out loud, and I did. I still recall it. My neighbor is a gay man, and he hands me his phone, and that was one of the lines in the book was, if a gay man hands you a phone, don't scroll past the picture that he's showing you. My neighbor handed me his phone, and I just had to laugh out loud, because I'm like, can I scroll?
So this one, we don't actually have anything to hold up, because these are anticipated releases. Again, she doesn't really pay attention to what's coming.
I just pick them up and read them.
She finishes the book and then immediately texts me and says, what are you reading?
Give me another name.
What should I read next? But I have a couple. So later this month, actually in just like less than a week, The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst is coming out. So that's a sequel to The Spell Shop, which I didn't love, but I didn't hate, but I'm actually more intrigued by the plot of The Enchanted Greenhouse. The Spell Shop is about basically a librarian that has to keep track of spell books, and it's during a revolution, and so she has to escape the world, and she just cares about her spell books, and so she escapes the world, the village that she lives in, with some spell books that she thinks are really important, but then she also escapes with a sentient plant, a spider plant. The second book, or this new book, The Enchanted Greenhouse, is actually about the witch that created the sentient spider plant.
Oh.
And so I don't know why that makes me more intrigued, but
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's a cozy fantasy. So
maybe I'll have to read it with you.
Other cozy fantasy that I'm excited about is Automatic Noodle. And again, I don't know a whole lot about it. It's by, so if I say it right, Annalie Newitz, if I'm saying that right. And this comes out at the beginning of August 5th. And this is about a bunch of robots that run a noodle shop. It's a novella, so I don't like knowing a lot going into novellas.
That's how she reads so many books.
Yeah, that's part of it, yeah. Then one of my new favorite authors, T. Kingfisher, is coming out with a book in mid-August called Hemlock and Silver, which it's a retelling of Snow White. I'm pretty sure it's a Snow White retelling.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then R.F. Kuang has a new release that I'm sure everyone's heard about in late August called, so I have it on the screen up there. Do you see the K one? I want to know how you would say that.
Catabasis.
Oh, that's an interesting. I haven't heard that.
Catabasis.
So everybody thought it was catabasis, and now she came out and said catabasis. Basically, everybody was saying it the wrong way, and then R.F. Kuang said it the right way, and they were all like, what? But this is dark academia, where they're studying, you're sensing a trend here, a dark academia.
Yeah.
Anyway, in this one, their advisor, basically there's two students, and their advisor gets lost in what is essentially like Dante's Inferno, like the levels of hell, and so they have to go in after him. That's
and go
the general,
Okay.
That's all I know.
Have you read Dante's Inferno?
In like high school or middle school.
Really?
Is that something I would have read in middle school?
No.
I vaguely remember, maybe it's all that religious school you sent me to.
Well,
they probably talked about the levels of hell in a Lutheran middle school.
No, I
maybe
think
we read it in high school. Okay, I probably read it in high school. Sounds more like a high school book. Anyway, and then I don't know if you know about this one, Dan Brown is doing another Robert Langdon book.
That would be one I'd be excited to read
about. Secrets of Secrets.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I can't remember where, you know how they always
where
pick place. Yeah, what the theme is.
It always makes me so mad. I read the Da Vinci Code, and it was right after we had been in Westminster Abbey and all in that area. And I was like, I wish I could go back and see these things.
That comes out September 9th. So,
that might be on my list.
Maybe we can read it together.
Yeah.
So, anyway, biggest disappointment. Do you want to go first? I feel like I'm going first a lot.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. All right. Okay. So my biggest disappointment, let me get the book. So I'd like to preface this with the book itself was not a disappointment. I think I'm going to keep the book. I haven't fully decided yet. What made this a disappointment for me was actually the marketing of it, I would say. The book is The Wedding People by Alison Espach. I believe it's Espach is how you say that, which a lot of people love this book. It has very high ratings. It is a beloved novel. I would say that, and I even went back and read the blurbs about the book to make sure that I wasn't like totally missing this in my mind. It was touted as a funny literary fiction book, so contemporary fiction, I guess, about a woman who is she's getting divorced or she's been divorced. She's having troubles at work. And so she decides to go to this hotel to get away. She just like up and leaves life. And so she goes to this hotel where everybody else at the hotel is involved in this wedding, and she becomes a part of the wedding. And so she like interacts with everyone. You think she's a guest, and it's supposed to be really funny. And that's how it was marketed. But instead it is not. And I feel like it's not a spoiler because it happens in the first, I don't know, like 30 minutes of the book. Do you feel like it's a spoiler if it's something that happens in the first? Very early in the book, you find out that she's going to this hotel to kill herself. And so the book goes back and forth between like all these sad, depressing times in her life and why she's ready to just give up. And then it intermingles with all this reflective ways she's thinking about the people she's interacting with the wedding. And again,
So not funny.
No, it wasn't funny. And I highlighted a lot of like really poignant, thought-provoking things. And it was a very reflective book. So I don't know if I like disliked the book or if I I went in thinking it was going to be something else, and that's why it disappointed me.
That
So
can ruin it for
yeah,
you.
but I understand why people like it. And I think like, okay, maybe if I had gone in not knowing anything, would that have helped? But honestly, I don't think I would have read it if I had gone in knowing what it was about. Like I wouldn't have even read it. So I don't know, there's that dichotomy too. Like,
Well, being a mood reader, if I was told a book is funny and it wasn't, and I'm into this deep, thought-provoking, I probably would have been disappointed.
Yeah.
My biggest disappointment was Jodi Picoult's A Book of Two Ways. And I know she is very, very popular, and I believe I have actually also read some of her other books before. I think I might be influenced because the book was recommended to me by my mother, and we have similar tastes in reading, and she often surprises me with some of the books she recommends.
I agree.
But this particular one, maybe I was reading a little bit more into it, and it was intermingling with the challenges that my mother and I had, as most daughters and mothers do as they're growing up. I was just reading a summary about this book because honestly, I remember so very little about it. Basically, I guess the core thought is, what is a life well lived?
Oh, okay.
And
that's kind of what my book was about too.
Was it? I feel like I have lived a wonderful life. I did often follow my dreams. And, my mother recently, as she's getting older, is starting to talk about her regrets. So our relationship has really flip-flopped. But I really think that's probably what influenced me more, is that I kept reading into it, this is how my mom feels about the choices that I made in life, and how, it was a mistake, or the things that I missed out on for doing the things that I did. I
think we're just too happy to read depressing books. Biggest surprise, which I interpreted this as, a book that you wanted to read but you don't really know why, and then it just kind of exceeded your expectations. I don't physically have mine with me. As I mentioned earlier, I really got into novellas, which apparently a novella is 200 pages or less. So I read a lot of novellas. One that really surprised me was A Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers, who I have since learned has written a lot of different books, both novels and novellas. But this particular one is futuristic world where there's been some sort of like technology, AI, climate issue, but in this world, the humans have figured out how to live in balance with the earth, and which I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But the general plot is that it's a story about a tea monk named Sybil Dex, and while Sybil Dex is out exploring the world, they run into a robot named Mosscap, and in this society, robots have not interacted with people for hundreds and hundreds of years, and so it's just about their journey together and their dialogue. It's a very introspective, beautiful prose. I did lots of writing down of favorite
Is that why
quotes.
it surprised you?
Yeah,
so much?
it surprised me because for such a short book, it packed a lot of really insightful, thought-provoking. I felt like I was in the world. I felt like, I knew these people, and it did it in 150 pages.
Nice.
So
nice. My biggest surprises were first Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know that there is a series that has been recorded on this. I think
like a TV series.
Yeah, like a TV series. The book itself, it is written as like a documentary on this band that skyrockets to stardom and then just stops, breaks up and goes its many different ways. I liked it because it happens in a period of time, like in the 70s, that I can totally recall. I was an avid concert goer and followed the music of that era. And I think the book is loosely based off of Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac. That was interesting. But the surprise to me was the big question behind the book was, why did this infamous band break up just at the peak of their popularity and stardom, that they just all went their separate ways, and why? And as the characters are built in each character in the band, and their managers and some of these other characters as well, the peripheral characters, are all developed so much and all have an idea of why they all went their separate ways. And I guess it really grabbed me because it really shows the complexity of life. There really is no black and white as to why something happened. And I've heard other reviews on this that some people didn't like it, and I just kind of feel like they missed that core piece of it, that the things are just more complex than you can just down to one idea. But the other book is I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. It's a fantasy book. The title is similar to like if you had an exterminator come to your house and say, I'm afraid you've got raccoons in your attic or something. It's similar to that. The fact that you have dragons is, sort of a given, that dragons are running around wild in the woods. I didn't realize I would enjoy such a fantasy novel. It was recommended by her.
Even though I haven't read it.
You haven't read
No.
it? Oh.
The next prompt is a book that made you laugh or cry. So it takes a lot for me to cry in a book, so I went with laugh. And a book that definitely made me chuckle is Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is blowing up right now. They're apparently going to turn it into a series. This author is actually going to be in Columbus this weekend for a book thing. Yeah, this is what's known as a lit RPG, which basically means it's written like a video game. I wasn't sure how I would like. I wasn't sure if I could keep reading it. The general premise is Carl is out at night trying to save his cat, Princess Donut. It's actually his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, from a tree. And right when he's outside, everything in the world collapses, and the only people that survived were the people that were outside of buildings and structures. And so Carl, essentially through a random assortment of means, ends up in a reality show game run by aliens, and he has to do all these weird things to survive. And just to give you a sense of
just normal life.
Yeah, exactly. Just to give you a sense of the humor, very shortly after he ends up down there, his cat that he came with, Princess Donut, is given the ability to talk, and she's like stronger and more powerful and runs the show like you would think all cats would. So
as cats do.
But the audio narrator was amazing. He really like added to the humor of it.
Oh, that's fun.
So yeah,
that's fun. My book, I again also don't cry easily, but the book that did have me literally sobbing is The Women by Kristen Hanna. There are instances, and many horrific instances in the book that I know did indeed happen, but the instance of what happened to the villagers, the innocent villagers that were around and their children, bringing them into the army hospital, it's just heart-wrenching, So got to read it with a box of tissues.
As I would think. So I think the last one that we're going to talk about was a hidden gem you want people to read. I've actually already talked about both of mine, but I take prompts like this, like the scientific-minded person that I am. So I went on Goodreads and I looked at what I've read and I sorted them by the number of ratings. And so that's how I defined a hidden gem for me. So one that didn't have a lot of ratings, that like a lot of people have not read it, was The Shadow of the Leviathan books. So The Tainted Cup and A Drop of Corruption are the two books in that series. And again, like I really enjoyed those. I'll probably be reading some other things by Robert Jackson Bennett. And then A Psalm for the Wild Bill was another one, which as a novella, I can kind of see why that one is like more underrated, but those were two that I was surprised were so much lower on the rating scale than I was expecting.
My hidden gem, I think, was The Maid. I had this actually recommended to me by a new friend that...
Oh, I read that too.
By Nita Prose, and I think it's probably pretty popular, but I think the thing that I liked about it is the main character is, I think, on the spectrum or socially awkward, or I don't know.
They never really specify.
Yeah, they never really come out and say it, but it's narrated from within her mind. And I just loved it because it really makes you understand what is incomprehensible, I think, when you're interacting with somebody who is on the spectrum. And it created some humorous...
She notices things that other people wouldn't notice.
So yeah, she's a socially awkward maid who stumbles across a dead body. And so it's a murder mystery. It has some humorous parts to it. a lot of times you're thinking, oh my God, she's given away the plot to the murderer and she has no idea, but it all works out in the end. So I really enjoyed it.
Hopefully you've learned a little bit about us as readers. Obviously, I read a little bit more fantasy, lean on the fantasy side. And I think we kind of mentioned I dabble in the audiobook, but I really like a physical book. I've been doing a lot of annotating this year, which has been pretty fun.
I noticed.
All my tabs and my underlines.
I'm going to have to
like
get you some more tabs for Christmas.
But I'll read just about anything. So
yeah, I tend to read more historical fiction. And I tend to almost exclusively listen to audiobooks. It's mostly for two reasons. My eyesight is sort of annoyingly going, and wearing glasses tends to make me start having headaches and stuff. To me, it's easier to listen, and I can also do other things while I'm listening. I know I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, how can you do that? But like when I'm cleaning or sewing or cooking, that's all automated to me. I can listen to a story and be involved with what's going on with the characters. So, and also I do enjoy the fact that the audiobooks, the narrations that I am reading, I'm really impressed with, and sometimes they, I think, really improve the book. The current book that I'm listening to now, Mudbound, it's got a huge cast of characters that are narrating.
Thank you so much for watching our very first video, our entrance into the BookTube community. If you liked hearing about us, if you want to hear some more, feel free to subscribe, give us a like, and tell us what some of your favorites for 2025 have been so far.
All right, well, we hope to see you next time.
Happy reading. Ready?
I am.
Say grab your bag.
Oh.
Excuse you. You are not invited into this shot. This is Epic Shots and Espresso Plots. Okay.
Judy Picoult's I'm sorry. I changed it a little bit there.
So did I. Thank you.
I did not say that very well. Let me do that again.
Okay.
Nope, I can't do it.